this episode, we take you aboard one of the most bizarre and frustrating cruises we have taken for many years. And from a cruise line you would never expect it from. You're looking at the brand new Disney adventure. To be honest, the entire episode was a fiasco. A day after boarding, we went absolutely nowhere for 30 hours. The captain came over the intercom and announced, "That's it, your cruise is cancelled."
But we will, unfortunately, be cancelling the remainder of this experience and will therefore need to disembark all passengers from the ship.
And we, along with everybody else aboard, were told to pack our bags, get off, and leave the ship. And to be frank, by that point, we probably already wanted to get off. Because there are parts about the ship we loved, but also parts that make absolutely zero sense.
Now, I wish I could be the bringer of good tidings, but it's not the case.
If this is Disney's big new dream, their supposed best ever cruise ship, I can tell you it probably isn't what you expect. For long-time Disney fans, this ship may come as a genuine shock. You're watching the Ritzy Travel Guide. Welcome back to the Ritzy Travel Guide. My name is Bill, and it's great to have you along with us. Now, it's not often that I make a video like this. In fact, I can't genuinely remember the last time we came off a cruise feeling this disappointed by the overall experience. Because when Disney first announced the adventure a few years ago, the anticipation surrounding the ship was absolutely enormous. The biggest cruise ship they had ever built. Their most ambitious project yet, with one of the most talked about roller coasters on a cruise ship. It was to be the very best of the Disney Cruise Line, all brought together into one giant flagship experience. And honestly, we were just as excited as anybody else by the announcement, as we're big Disney fans. We visited their theme parks across 4 different continents over the years, taking our children numerous times when they were growing up. We always loved the atmosphere and the experience Disney can bring when it's at its very best. So it genuinely gives me no pleasure to bring a critical assessment of their new ship. Because when we booked this new cruise with them, we fully expected it to be another wonderful spectacle. But then came the first of a series of unexpected announcements. Firstly, Disney decided this ship would operate entirely as a cruise to nowhere. The ship simply sails out of Singapore, spends several days at sea, going round and round in circles, and they're coming right back again. No port stops, no beach stops, no exploring different destinations, no historic cities. None of this exists, which immediately creates one big issue. The ship itself better be good. So, I'm going to go through exactly what you need to know about the adventure, because it's so different from every other ship in the Disney fleet, and you'll see what I mean when you watch the video. And in case you're wondering, is this a small little cruise ship? No, it's not. It's an absolute whopper. 6,700 passengers, alongside a crew of approximately 2,500, giving a grand total of 9,200 people aboard. This makes it the 7th largest cruise ship in the world, just a smidgen behind the huge megaships recently released, such as the Icon of the Seas class from Royal Caribbean and some of the megaships from MSC. You're basically talking about aircraft carrier proportions. Right, on the ship we go. We'll tell you everything that happened to us. And I've placed a countdown timer here on the screen so you can see in real time how it all played out for us and how long it took for everything to unravel. Full of anticipation and some trepidation, we arrived in Singapore.
We're ready for a bit of Disney, the Disney adventure.
Hakuna Matata.
Now, we could have booked a Disney cruise in the Caribbean, but we thought, why not try Asia? It could be more revealing, it could be more interesting. Totally different element. Are you ready for 6,000 people plus on this ship? A lot of kids, a lot of people. It's going to be a busy, frenetic cruise, methinks.
Against the skyline, it does indeed look huge, noticeably bigger than any other ship Disney has ever launched.
Something tells me this might be the noisiest, busiest cruise we have ever been on.
So we will brace ourselves and enjoy the adventure.
We shall. Disney Cruise Line's where magic meets the sea. Well, we'll find out shortly. I can almost hear zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day coming down the corridor. Not quite. Almost a small world I can hear in the background. It's not a small ship though. Okay, how's the ship looking? First glance. Well, it's looking very blue and orange, orangey yellow. You won't miss those lifeboats in a hurry.
Stop the gangplank we went. Keep in mind at this juncture it was midday on day one. We had absolutely no idea this sailing was already doomed.
Hello! And we're on! Here we go. The red carpet leads the way.
It was great to be aboard. See how Disney's Asian version has turned out. Because as I'll explain to you in a few minutes, this ship has a very big reason why it's so different to all its sister ships the other side of the world. Because it started out life as something else. More on that in a bit. Let's take a look around. On first inspection, you can totally see what the Disney Imagineers have been up to. There is some wonderful theming. Right here, it genuinely feels like Disney. The walls are covered in beautiful character artwork, and the Imagineers did a wonderful job with the styling. But it is a bit random. Just as you think you've got the measure of the ship, you turn a corner and there! What the heck are those escalators?
It's one of the few ships which actually have an escalator. Not many cruise ships have escalators.
I think old Walt might be turning in his grave at the sight of those. Anyhow, I digress, because there are some really nice and upmarket outlets here you don't see on other Disney ships elsewhere. Some unique companies such as Batcha, a coffee company that's been in Marrakesh, Morocco for over a century and now is a real hit all over Asia. Really premium stuff. Not only can you buy it in here, but they also serve it in the restaurants. And I'll show you this later in the video. We have it for breakfast. There were two places we wanted to see on the ship first. The deck upstairs for their famous Iron Man roller coaster. We'll get to that in just a minute. But also, we wanted to see their unique street district. Welcome to San Fransokyo Square. That's a complete tongue twister. You feel like you've entered a movie set or a sights and sounds museum. It's a combination of food halls, arcade halls, and at the end, movie theatres, with a whole load of props thrown in for good measure. It's a mashup of a make-believe land that's half San Francisco of the 50s, then bolted on to Tokyo.
It's quite the sensory experience walking through here because it's sights and sounds. They're playing the imaginary street cafes and restaurants and coffee shops. You can hear Japanese, you can hear other voices. It's like they're behind the storefronts.
The air smells like toasted sesame or fresh ginger and rich ramen broth because it's lined with Asian fusion food stalls. And for a moment, you forget you're on a cruise ship instead of a hidden alleyway back street in Shinjuku.
It's like you've got a streetcar from San Francisco, or a Japanese version of it. It's been Japaneseified, if such a word exists.
Just around the corner, you'll find the Hiro Training Zone. This is Disney's interactive superhero-themed area, where children can test their skills through a series of physical challenges. Everything is brightly coloured, energetic, and designed to make younger guests feel as though they've stepped into their own superhero training academy. Whilst we were looking at family attractions, we spotted a signpost to the Kids Club. I rarely show you Kids Clubs because they can be a bit boring, a bit humdrum, but I am going to show you around this one because it's almost unlike anything else you might have seen at sea. Disney call it the Oceaneer Club, and it's like an entire city dedicated to children. The space is absolutely enormous. Inside you'll find multiple theme zones, interactive play areas, and one feature that particularly caught our attention was the nursery facilities. Disney have dedicated sleeping areas with cots and beds for younger children, giving parents the option of leaving even very young babies in a purpose-built environment. Still to come, we show you about the most talked about ride on the ship. Is it worth the ticket price alone? We went on it, we'll let you know. Plus our cabin, and of course the moment we get chucked off the ship. By then, we were only 2 hours into our Disney adventure experience, just another 28 to go. But first, should I take you outside to show you the decks, the pools, and that theme park?
Now, do you see what's right up there? It's the roller coaster. Now that's like gold dust. You try booking to get onto that one,
It's like a golden ticket. It's the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory golden ticket.
It's exactly that. In fact, it might be easier to get a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory golden ticket. We're all going to be rushing to the app. Apparently 6:30 every night they release a limited number of slots to go on that roller coaster. If you're lucky, you'll get on it. Not many people do. See if we get on it.
We did actually manage to secure one of the golden tickets for the IronCycle roller coaster and went on it. That's coming up a bit later. But first, let's talk about the pool and deck areas. Here we go. Stepping up into the open air brings you face to face with a sprawling multi-zoned outdoor entertainment complex. Here it feels less like a traditional cruise ship and more like a floating theme park. A lot of mega ships' top decks now look like this: part pool complex, part theme park. There are flumes everywhere, an interactive splash zone for families, some kids rides, and plenty of places for children to run around getting absolutely soaked while their parents wander off to get a cocktail. On the face of it, everything looks rather impressive, but that's not where my criticism lies. That's with the main pool itself, because basically there is only one main pool. One, for a ship carrying well over 6,000 passengers. What were you thinking, Disney? And it's not even a particularly large pool.
Now, here is the problem. This is the main, in fact, pretty much the only swimming pool on Disney Adventure. 6,000 plus people and a pool that's just that size. There are a couple of other smaller pools around the ship, but they don't really count as pools. They're more like feet soakers, really, or reflecting ponds. This is the only pool section, and it is way, way, way too small.
It gets busy, very busy. There is another small pool right at the back. This is at Wayfinder Bay, but this is more of a performance area. During the day they put on a couple of shows on the stage, and at night they do show movies under the stars. Outside of those times you can use the pool, but it's not big and it is extremely exposed. A lot of families came here and found it too small and too hot. I'm afraid this is the reality of the pool situation on the adventure. With that, we were actually heading off to the buffet for a late lunch. But before we got there, we were collared by the spa and health team, who were conducting embarkation tours.
Welcome to the Rainforest.
All right, I feel tropical already.
Oh yeah, this one is our Buccaneer Bar. So these are the heated beds, so you can have a quick feel.
Again, I don't normally focus on this, but I think they've done it rather well. It's a huge facility. Unlike some cruise ship spas that can feel a little bit cramped or tucked away, this one feels more like a proper wellness centre. There are never-ending thermal facilities, relaxation spaces, and areas to simply escape the crowds for a while.
Wow, there's like never-ending row of treatment rooms. Oh, what's that one? What's all that silver foil? What do you do with that one? Oh, it's a
We apply the seaweed.
seaweed wrap, is it?
Yes.
I'm like a jacket potato in here.
And then we wrap you.
Wow. I'll come out a new man, will I? Look, I've just found the perfect place. You can feel like sushi or sashimi because they wrap you in seaweed.
By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please do give it a like, give it a thumbs up, as it lets us know we're on the right track. We'll try to put out more of this type of material. By this point, we were in need of food and headed off to the buffet. On Disney's other ships, the quality of the buffet is usually rated as good, sometimes very good, so naturally we were quite interested to see what Disney Adventure would bring to the table. And our first impression, well, it certainly wasn't what we were expecting. The venue itself is enormous, it has to be. Presentation is perfectly respectable, nothing looked bad. The selection feels surprisingly ordinary, surprisingly basic. That completely forgettable. It was surprisingly average because Disney doesn't position themselves as an average budget cruise line. They charge premium prices, very premium prices in a lot of cases. And when you're paying those kinds of fares, you have natural expectations. And we were about to see much more of the buffet than we realized. I'll tell you why when it comes to evening dinner, because we were right back there again. I'll explain that circumstance. 21 hours and ticking, we headed out to the aft deck to watch the Sailaway. Or did we? Welcome to the Sailaway that wasn't.
Let's make our way to the aft deck because the Sailaway from Singapore is one of the more interesting ones to film. Here we go. Sail away. 4 nights going to...
Nowhere.
absolutely nowhere. We're going to be going round and round and round in circles. Now, often you might do a transatlantic or you do a repositioning where actually you start in A and you end up in B, which is somewhere totally different. Whereas we're doing things slightly different. We're coming straight back where we started. I'm just waiting for the horns to go off. I'm waiting for the Disney music to start up there. It's quite good watching the sail away as we go up.
And then it happened, the first of the ominous announcements from the captain.
Captain.
Well, a very good evening, Disney Adventure. It's the captain speaking from the bridge once more, and my apologies for the early evening interruption. But some of the more eagle-eyed amongst you may well have noticed that we are still alongside the terminal here in Singapore, and I just wanted to bring you up to speed with the reasons for that. When we came to our departure and we were starting up our 3 podded propulsion motors, it became apparent that we have a minor technical issue with one of those podded propulsion motors, and as I speak, our chief engineer and his team are currently fault finding on it. It is, of course, one of those issues that we're unsure how long it will take to identify and to rectify the issue, but please be rest assured that we will depart just as soon as everything is shipshape. So again, my sincere apologies for the delay in our departure. As soon as the technical issue has been rectified, whenever that may be, we will be departing and getting on our merry way.
Did you hear the announcement?
I did.
Basically, it says we have an error with the propulsion.
Yes.
But ha, Disney style. Don't worry, everything is going to be alright. Really?
So I think that Singapore skyline is going to be there for a little bit longer.
For a heck of a lot longer. It sounded routine, it sounded technical, Azipod's propulsion. We didn't realise how serious it was going to get. Nobody did. Nothing to suggest we were about to be ejected shortly. But the mood on board was beginning to change. Questions were starting to be asked. Passengers were starting to speculate, and that would only increase. In the meantime, we haven't showed you our cabin, so we wandered off to see that.
Right, here we go. Time to see our cabin. Let's hope it's a good one. Is it a good cabin? Is it a nice cabin?
Yes, it is a nice one.
Are we going to be wowed? Are we going to be excited?
Yes, why not? For sure.
Bags are here. There's always a certain expectation.
I
certain
am
little-
expecting magic.
Are you? Well, yes, we're on a Disney ship.
It's a Disney ship, so
We're
I
at
am expecting...
11562. We're right at the aft. In we go. Should I cue Disney magic music at this juncture? And in we go. Well, here we are. Let's have a look at the cabin. There we are. Look, it even says the adventure on the bed. We could feel like we're in Africa. Never mind, we're sailing out of Singapore. We can imagine we're in the plains of Africa. Cream. Would you say overtones of cream? There's a lot of cream here. We've got some Disney artwork there. Ah, looks like a school table or a school desk there. What have we got here?
If you want a little snack, open it up.
Oh, I see. Right, okay. There you are. You're back at school. Chemistry class. 4th grade.
Now, I do like that kettle. It's like Aladdin's lamp.
Oh, the kettle. So it is, yes. It's like Aladdin's lamp, isn't it?
In general, the cabins are fine. They pretty much follow the copybook of most other cruise lines these days. It's a similar shape, size and layout to its competitors. But if I am being honest, the finish is a bit basic. In the past 12 months, we've been on comparable premium-grade cruise companies such as Holland America, Celebrity, Princess and Cunard, and I have to say their finishing does look and feel more premium. You might even say IKEA. That's possibly the closest comparison I would make. The Disney Adventure cabins feel like IKEA at sea.
Okay, we've got 3 drawers, we've got a little writing table. Hanging space, well, if we're being honest, we have to say it's not very much, but this ship currently is designated only for 3 and 4 night sailings. I wouldn't say it's the worst ship we've been on for hanging, but let's give it a C+. Let's do a balcony test. How big is this balcony? So, what have we got there? We've got 2 occasional chairs and a little table for our breakfast at sea.
The bathroom is okay, and somewhat almost uniquely to Disney, it's split into two, so 2 doors. The toilet cubicle is separated from the main bathroom and shower. The bathroom is fine, it's a little bit on the small side.
Oh, we have a message.
Welcome aboard. This is your hotel director McLean on board the beautiful Disney Adventure. We feel very privileged that you have chosen the Disney Adventure as your vacation destination. I welcome you on board the Disney Adventure and wish you a magical cruise.
That's a fraction disappointing. I thought they were ringing to say we've been given a bottle of champagne or we've been upgraded to some super duper concierge class balcony or something like that. Instead, it was just a welcome message, which is always very welcome, but not an upgrade.
Right, up to 20 hours and counting. Before dinner, we decided to do what we often do on any cruise ship, go and explore the bars. And one thing Disney has traditionally been very good at is creating atmospheric public spaces. And to be fair, the bars aboard are genuinely impressive. The standout is undoubtedly Spellbound. It's a beautifully themed venue inspired by Snow White's Evil Queen, complete with dramatic lighting, clever effects, and some wonderfully imaginative design touches.
It's very spellbinding.
Isn't it?
All sorts of potions.
The wicked bite, the queen, the poison apple, and the huntsman.
Now, if I was to order one, I might well have a wicked bite or a poison apple.
It's one of the bars you walk in and immediately reach for your camera. It is that impressive. Elsewhere, you'll find the Buccaneer Bar with its nautical styling and maritime influences.
Right, in we go, Buccaneer Bar.
Again, beautifully done. You almost feel like you're on the set of the Pirates of the Caribbean. And then there's the D Lounge, which serves as one of the ship's main entertainment and gathering spaces. So from a design perspective, Disney has done a great job, but there is a recurring story here. The Disney adventure often looks fantastic, but doesn't always feel so. What do I mean? Now let's go through a very interesting point of why the Disney Adventure feels so different from every other ship in the Disney Cruise Line. And frankly, it's one of the strangest stories in modern cruising. Disney didn't actually build this ship from scratch. Nope, they bought it secondhand off somebody else. It was partially completed. It started life as a completely different project for a different cruise line. Because before the pandemic, an Asian cruise company called Genting was building what was supposed to become one of the largest cruise ships in the world. At the time, it was called the Global Dream, and it was aimed fairly and squarely at the Asian market, more importantly, the Asian mass market. The concept was very different from a traditional Disney ship. It was all about maximum capacity, maximum attractions, and maximum number of people. It was designed for 7,000 passengers. And to be fair, Genting weren't even trying to build a Disney-style ship. They were trying to build their own answer to Royal Caribbean. Big attractions, big crowds, big everything. So when COVID hit, they went bust, the ship sat idle, until very surprisingly Disney decided to buy it up. Part built, part finished, with the structure still in place, including all the huge neighbourhoods, the giant entertainment zones, and what they proudly call the longest roller coaster at sea. Sound familiar? Well, it should do. But it was originally on the Genting Dream. Disney didn't remove it. They painted it and called it their own. On Genting, it was called the Space Cruiser. Here it is, it's identical to Disney's ride, which they now call IronCycle Test Run. And standing on board, looking around for us that first afternoon, we couldn't help wondering whether Disney had underestimated just how difficult it would be to take a ship designed for one audience and transform it into something completely different and call it their own. Because as you'll see throughout this review, one of the biggest problems aboard Disney Adventure can be traced back to that single decision. Buying it off somebody else for a completely different audience. By the way, Ritzy Travel Guide is on Instagram and Facebook. If you enjoy following us around in real time, in between filming for YouTube, you can follow us on both of these. You'll see what we get up to, the countries we visit, and behind the scenes. The channel name is the same as here, Ritzy Travel Guide. There is the link up at the top, and I'll also put the address in the description box for this video. So follow along with us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll see you in those. Now let's move on to our evening dining. See what happened with that. Now, one of the things that sets Disney apart from most other cruise lines is something they call rotational dining. It's actually a clever concept. Instead of eating in the same restaurant every night, you rotate. The waiters and the staff go with you, and you dine somewhere different every night. It's one of the things that Disney has always been famous for. Sadly not on the Disney Adventure, because for our 4-night sailing, we noticed that 2 out of those 4, our dinner would be served to us in the buffet. No, we weren't having buffet food. They were simply taking the food that would have been served in the formal, nicely decorated restaurants and bringing them into the buffet and serving us there. Why? Well, it's clear, because there are too many people on board the ship. When you have close to 7,000 people, they've worked out there aren't enough formal, nice, smart, themed restaurants to sit everybody down at once. So in we trooped.
Hello.
Hello there.
Check your reservation.
Yes, we are 106. Thank you. They're trying to pretend it's the main dining room, but it's not. It's actually the buffet. We all know it's the buffet, isn't it? But at night, it becomes...
They close the hatchet.
and say, don't look right, don't look left. It's really the buffet, but we'll pretend it's not. We've got a window right by the aft. We can see us disappearing into the sunset.
Any further, we'll be in sync.
Yes. Well, any further, we'd be in Singapore. Can I just point out, it's getting quite dark out there now. We still haven't got anywhere, have we? No, you know when this was billed as the cruise to nowhere? I thought we were actually going to cast off, go out to sea and call that a cruise to nowhere.
Maybe they literally mean cruise to nowhere.
So this is becoming an alternative cruise to nowhere. Where they haven't untied. I wonder if we're just not going to untie for 4 days. That's a totally different perception of cruise to nowhere. We're not going anywhere. We were jesting. Little did we realise. But you can't blame the wait staff for that. In here, and indeed every single restaurant on the Disney Adventure, the staff were superb, smiling and friendly. Let's show you some of the food we had that evening. Oh, what a healthy start. Chicken salad.
Start. You may not end this one.
Okay, well, it's a healthy start. Porcini pasta.
Isn't there some Shrek rolls?
Well, yes, I'm not sure I have ever seen a pea green bread roll before. I think so, because it claims to be matcha. Now, you don't often see a matcha flavoured bread roll when you go on a cruise. French onion soup. It's a good-looking French onion soup, actually, isn't it? Look, it's bubbling away. Bubble, bubble, bubble. We have a prime rib here. I've got a prime rib too. That is, what would you call that, medium rare? It's quite rare, isn't it? It's practically mowing. I've forgotten what I ordered. What did I order?
Lemon tart.
The lemon tart.
Thank you.
Thank you. Disney coin at the end of it. Look, it's like they dragged a paintbrush from left to right. Meanwhile, round the dining room, chatter was on whether our ship would ever leave dock. Our meal over, we decided to go outside and have a look, see if by some magical miracle we were now no longer in Singapore. But there it was, the Singapore skyline, exactly where we left it. The hot tubs at the aft of the ship do look beautiful here, illuminated against the night sky. The decks look lovely, the city looked lovely. The problem was, we weren't supposed to be looking at that, it wasn't supposed to be there, we were supposed to be looking at the ocean. With that, we headed to the Imagination Garden. I haven't showed you this section yet. They were holding a silent disco, one of the signature zones for the Disney Adventure. If you look at any of their marketing, this is one of the images they always show you, the one they want you to see. It's open air up to the sky, it's one of the most Instagrammable spots on the ship, and consequently one of the most packed day or night. It doesn't matter which cruise you go on, silent discos are one of the most popular events of the cruise. Always have been. By then, it was 11 o'clock at night. We had a nightcap by the pool, looked up at the stars and prayed we might be on the move at some stage. So we woke up bright and early the following morning. Where were we?
Well, good morning and welcome to day 2 on the Disney adventure. We're steaming out to sea. Actually, no, we're not. We're still here. We're still in Singapore. We have not moved. Here, look. We haven't gone anywhere. We're still tied up. We're still at dock.
Exactly where we'd been the night before, tied up in Singapore.
Yes, as delightful as it is seeing Singapore in the distance, it's not what we're supposed to be seeing. We're supposed to be seeing the open sea. Are we going to have all 4 days tied up next to the wharf at Singapore? This really will be the cruise to nowhere.
We still hadn't received any information, nothing under the cabin door, no meaningful updates, no clear explanation of what was happening. We were all in limbo.
We're supposed to be going round that curly-whirly, scaring ourselves witless up there, shrieking our heads off, but we may not get on it. Meantime, though, one must still eat. Let's head off to breakfast. We're going to go to the Animator's table and have a nice slap-up meal.
I'm thinking batcha coffee.
Batcha coffee. Have you had batcha coffee before? It's famous, comes from Morocco. It'll wake us up in the morning. Put hairs on our chest. Right, let's try it out. Breakfast at Animator's table. Morning, oh, morning, 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 morning. Hi-ho, hi-ho. Home to work we go. Wow, good morning. Wow, there's enough people here to show us to the table. Oh, hello, wishy-washy. Wipey wipey even. Morning.
Morning, everybody.
Hi.
Morning. Table for 2 if we can. Liking all the artwork and the colours. I feel like we've walked onto the backlot of Disney. We've gone quite a long way here. I feel like we've walked to California from here. Ah, perfect, thank you.
When you walk in, you're immediately reminded of why they have a reputation for theming. The attention to detail is great. Everywhere you look, there are sketches, props, animation-inspired artwork, little nods to Disney's creative heritage. And once again, the staff were absolutely wonderful. Shout out to our waiter, Rhines from the Philippines, exactly the sort of crew member who helped make the event special. We were just settling into breakfast when guess who came over the intercom? Finally, after many hours, why, it was the captain.
Well, a very good morning, Disney Adventure guests. This is the captain speaking from the bridge. The time has just reached 9 a.m. My apologies for the early morning interruption, but I'm sure many of you will have noticed that we are still in port this morning.
Yep, spotted that one.
And I'd like to give you a brief update on our status. We are continuing to work through a mechanical issue, and because of this we were not able to depart as scheduled. Now the good news is that we have our engineering team working diligently on this to try and resolve the issue as quickly as possible. I want to reassure you that the ship remains completely safe and your comfort and well-being are always our highest priorities.
Just as we were sitting down to breakfast, El Capitan has just come back on the speakers. He says, well, basically they've got a problem. He gave no inkling whatsoever as to how long it's going to take to fix it. He could have said, I think probably in the next half an hour it's going to be fixed, 1 hour. No, he gave no impression at all. He said, shops are shut. Yes. Most other things can't go ashore either.
I think the most important takeaway was the problem seems to be indefinite.
Well, it could be that, couldn't it? No, I understand that captains do have to be a bit vague. First of all, I don't want to alarm people, but secondly, there's obviously the legal implications, but he didn't really give us any inclination as to where we're going. We could still be here this afternoon, tonight. We could wake up tomorrow morning, day 3, and still be here in Singapore.
I got an impression that it's going to take a while.
I think it could take a very long while. This could be a cruise. How are we going to describe this cruise? Tied up at Singapore. We're all tied up.
No, it's literally a cruise to nowhere.
Okay, dear viewer, let's have some thoughts about titles for this video. All tied up, that would be a good one, wouldn't it? The cruise that never left. All tied up and no place to go. Cruise to absolutely bloody nowhere.
With that, we We then headed back to IronCycle Test Run to hop aboard.
Right, are we ready for a bit of IronCycle? Are we ready to be scared witless?
It might finally be working because they just did the test runs. So, shortly, we should hopefully be able to get a ride in.
So on we went, and I have to say it is quite the ride. Gives you a great idea of it. Lean forward into a racing position, and then you're hurtled around an elevated track above the upper decks of the ship. And you go around twice. It's not only fast, it's also the setting. You sweep around the bends, you're treated to views across the ship, out towards the ocean, or in our case, the Singapore skyline. It's fun, it's quick, there's an adrenaline rush, exactly what you want from a good roller coaster ride. It is a great ride when it's running. We didn't know it then, but we had just 2 hours before we were about to be booted off. We took a stroll around the ship and then headed to the Imagination Garden for a snack, as we were keen to try out some of the unique to Disney Adventure Asian lunch spots. These are all complimentary and included in the fare.
Right, let's try some Indian food, Mowgli's. I can smell it wafting around the ship.
It did indeed smell intoxicating. They have a good spread, and it's popular. In fact, one of the most popular out of any of the outlets on the ship. It's also authentic. Sometimes ships dumb down cuisine, not here. So I had a small little appetizer sampling of that, just for scientific purposes. And then Mrs. Ritzy sent me next door for something more healthy, and that was at Cosmic Kebabs, which is a sort of Turkish outlet. Plenty of nice selections in here, and a lot less fattening, so I was ticking the box on that.
There you are, what a model of restraint I was over there. Mrs. Ritzy's not even looking, and I didn't even take some fries.
Out the Chinese and Asian corner cafe. If you've travelled anywhere in the Orient, these selections will seem familiar to you. To be honest, it's a bit like Panda Express at sea, the normal selections you'd expect. Glow in the dark and glistening. For a brief period, wandering around, everything felt normal. Well, almost. And then the announcement came. The dreaded one, the final one, the terminal one. The captain came on with the normal entry chimes. We happened to be standing right by guest services as he came over the airwaves. People stopped walking, conversations stopped, passengers craned to hear.
First and foremost, I would like to thank you all for your continued patience as we remain in port whilst our engineering team works to address the mechanical issue. The ship, of course, remains safe, but we will unfortunately be cancelling the remainder of this experience and will therefore need to disembark all passengers from the ship over the course of the next several hours.
And go to where?
I, of course, deeply apologise for the inconvenience this has caused and the disappointment that you are feeling.
We ask that all guests return to your staterooms to start preparing your personal belongings and luggage.
So, with that, our cruise was officially over. The engines had a technical difficulty that they were not going to be able to get round. The ship was going nowhere, not with us aboard.
Well, that's it. That's the end of the road for us. The end of the jetty, the end of the pier. The captain's just come on and said, our cruise is over. I think he actually said the experience is over. So we're being disembarked, debarked, turfed off, I don't know what you want to call it. Anyway, we must leave within the next couple of hours. Obviously they can't fix it, so they're thinking no point having everybody on board eating and drinking their way through the ship supplies. Send them all home, or send them somewhere, because most people weren't expecting to be back in Singapore for another 2 to 3 days.
Nobody was allowed to stay aboard. We all had to get off. There was no plan B. That was the only option we were given. What happened next was quite extraordinary. People immediately began reaching for their phones. Guest services was bombarded. Where were we all supposed to go? Because the cruise hadn't just been delayed, it had been cancelled. Yes, the cruise was over due to technical issues, but I do want to go over our critical assessment of the ship itself. I do want to address what I believe is the far more important issue. To me, the real headline here is, has Disney fundamentally got a bad ship on their hands? Is this a ship that Disney shouldn't even be putting their name to? Because the more I've reflected on this experience, the more I've come to the conclusion we were already finding ourselves increasingly concerned by what we were seeing aboard. There are 5 major issues we discovered on board Disney Adventure that frankly aren't being talked about nearly enough. First of all, we believe there's an identity crisis. My biggest concern with Disney Adventure runs much deeper than the engine problems. I don't believe Disney Adventure truly knows what it wants to be. Because at its core, this was never designed to be a Disney ship. Disney didn't sit down with a blank sheet of paper and design this vessel from scratch. They bought somebody else's unfinished ship. A ship that was originally conceived by Genting for a completely different audience. A different market, a different style of cruising. The problem is that the Disney Cruise Line has traditionally stood for something rather different. They're about atmosphere, storytelling and warmth, a sense of occasion. And throughout our time aboard, we felt this was missing. Yes, there are beautiful bars, they're delightfully themed, but you know what? We never heard any live music whatsoever in these bars, and nor to our understanding was any even planned.
There's several pretty bars, but there's nothing happening in any of them.
It all felt soulless. The original Genting DNA is visible everywhere you look, and once you notice it, you start seeing it all over the ship. Concern number 2 is with the pools and decks. Now, on first glance, the adventure appears to have plenty going on. There are water slides, splash zones, lots of water features, but here's the problem. There's only one main swimming pool, and it's not that big. It's relatively small, only one for 7,000 people. Other mega ships, they have at least 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not here on the Adventure. There is one main swimming pool only. There's the other at the aft, but that's not big. Trust me, it's nowhere near big enough for the number of people. For a ship that spends its entire life in Southeast Asia, this is a surprising oversight. And the marquee attraction of the adventure, the big feature Disney tells you you'll want to experience, the Iron Man coaster. Yes, it's fun, but do not hold your breath.
Now, do you see what's right up there? It's the roller coaster. Now that's like gold dust. You try booking to get onto that one.
If you get on, consider yourself extremely lucky. And then we come to dining. As I said, the buffet was far from stellar. It's constantly noisy. I don't think we have ever been into a buffet that is so loud.
I think it is possibly the most noisy buffet of any cruise ship, of any cruise line we have ever been on. I don't think MSC, Costa, Carnival, anybody has a buffet that is this loud. It is extraordinarily loud.
And then the rotational dining in the main dining room has been a complete and utter cop-out. When you only spend half of your time in any of the feature dining rooms and the other half being served your food in the buffet, that is not what you expect from a premium cruise line, and it does not happen in the other Disney cruise lines. You should be very aware of this. And whilst we're on the subject of strange decisions, there is one more I fundamentally question. This cruise to nowhere concept, all only going out to sea, circling around, going nowhere and coming back again. Why on earth have they made that decision? You're based in one of the most beautiful continents, yet you don't visit any of it. Many guests are flying from halfway around the world to be here. Right on your doorstep, you could have sailed to Thailand or Malaysia, Vietnam, Korea or Indonesia. These are extraordinary destinations within reach of the ship, yet Disney has chosen to show guests none of them. Which is truly bizarre, because if all you do is go out and circle around and come back again, that really shows up the glaring problems with the ship. You can see them, they're all magnified because there's nothing else to do. You're a captive audience, and it's then you notice everything that isn't quite right about this ship. And finally, number 5, we don't think it's a balanced ship. And the more we explored the ship, the more we realized the ship has been designed around one specific demographic, one only, and that's children. Now, before all the comments section explodes, we have nothing against children, but Disney theme parks are normally brilliant at catering to the entire family for all ages. Whether you're 5, 15, 50, 85, Disney normally has experiences designed for all of us. There were moments when the Disney adventure felt less like a premium family cruise ship and more like a kindergarten at sea.
You're wondering where all the deck space went? It all went to Kids Club.
Yes. To my mind, this ship, the Adventure, has completely forgotten experiences for adults, those accompanying the children. Something the competition does far better. Disney took a huge gamble by buying a second-hand ship off somebody else that was aimed at a totally different market sector, and for me, they haven't succeeded. With this ship, they have lost the very essence of what makes a Disney cruise special. For many, this wasn't simply a cancelled cruise, it was the vacation of a lifetime. Some had flown from right the other side of the world to be there, and invested time that simply cannot be refunded. Because money can often be reimbursed, but time cannot. Now, on the subject of what a spectacular cruising destination Asia actually is and should be, I've got 3 upcoming videos that I think you'd really enjoy. Immediately after this rather doomed Disney sailing, we flew to Tokyo and boarded a 12-night voyage with Celebrity Cruises, taking us around Japan and across to Korea. And honestly, it's one of the most charming, fascinating and rewarding cruises we've taken for years. Historic cities, wonderful food and incredible scenery. It was a cruise itinerary that constantly reminds you why Asia is such a fantastic region to explore by sea. I'll be covering that journey in a couple of videos. The first will be focusing on the ship itself, tell you what we thought about that, how it went for us, and the other will be focusing on the amazing destinations. We also spend extended time both before and after these cruises exploring Tokyo and Singapore, and I'll be releasing dedicated destination guides for both of these cities. They're some of the most immersive, exciting and fascinating places you'll find in the world. Trust me, you won't want to miss that one. So if you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to the Ritzy Travel Guide and have notification options switched on so you know when those videos come out. While waiting for those new videos to come out, we have several on our channel you can watch here and indeed here, and we'll see you in one of those videos now.